what the Social Investment Office is doing right now, and what they have done in the past 1 year, is to, one, go to all these communities, develop the criteria, enumerate, and then work with the communities to identify a register in every state. That register,
when did this take place?
This thing in the past 1 year. We signed this agreement.
I'm asking this question because the opposition believes that the cash transfer you're planning is just to be used as a campaign.
Let me finish explanation. You define those criteria based on international standards. We have countries like Ghana, Sierra Leone, Mauritania, several countries in the Sahara that have implemented this program. Nigeria is not the only program. President Buhari was campaigning. He campaigned on the ground that he wanted to lift people out of poverty. And the stricken poverty at that time was greatest in the Northeast, where many people were already displaced.
Is it the data gathered?
Now, they're trying to explain to you the data process. So the World Bank set the standard for the data gathering, one of which is that each state must sign and agree that we're going to implement this program in their state. When they sign it, the register of these people sticks. So every community has an enumerator. And they work with the enumerator. The MPS and the enumerators will work together to develop this list. After the list, they will go for verification. The National Safety Net Office will go for verification. People that have been identified are actually living below poverty line. That verification means, like you in your community, if we come to you today and say, do you know whether Mr. So-and-so person is doing this community? So it's going to be random verification so that people will not know that they are being verified. So the federal government,
National Bureau of Statistics,
yes,
states and communities are involved?
The local government investment office is leading it. We have the National Safety Net Office and the National Cash Transfer Office. All these people have been trained to work towards a particular framework, and that framework is international best practice today.
Do you believe those that have been identified as possible recipients are truly, they reflect a good percentage of poor Nigerians?
The test of the polling will be in when the actual transfer starts, because the list of beneficiaries will be published online, and you can assess that will be paid in your community.
Will it be the first cash transfer from this administration?
No, because already under the, since 2016, we've had this cash transfer process in our budget. But we started with the Northeast. Before the World Bank signed the financing, Nigeria with a counterpart funding. And when this other money came in, Nigeria said, okay, we also want to apply this money. And it was reflected in the 2017 budget.
You now expanded it.
Yes, it was reflected in the 2017 budget that will be recovered from the Swiss, will be applied for the purposes of supporting Nigeria, supporting the social investment program. That is something that we always lose sight. Nigeria defending hard towards ensuring that this process is not only transparent, but that it will affect the lives of ordinary Nigerians. And I think this is what should matter.
Don't you think it will capital for this administration, putting money in the hands of poor people few months to the election?
No, it's not about
would it not be an advantage?
No, I mean, this thing has been going on since 2016.
In limited scale?
Yes. But now we've expanded it, and now we're getting all the 36 states.
What stopped you from expanding it before?
Excuse me. All the 36 states, everybody will benefit. It's not about when. This money came in 2017 December. That was when we signed the agreement. It hit the central bank recovery account in January, first week of January. We had to plan. The World Bank and Nigerian government agreed that you cannot do anything, you can't touch that money unless there are electronic payment systems. And we have systems for people who are living in the communities. It takes time to build a platform. That platform will also enable you to see who and who is being. These things, you don't just walk over it.
You rightly mentioned that the social investment program is dear to the president. He promised Nigerians.
Yeah.
And if it is a cardinal in the priority of the president, one expected that the implementation would have started. If it is there and a priority,
it is a priority.
But it started on a limited.
Let me say it's a priority,
and it's now taking a national dimension. Few months to an election.
I think I don't want us to talk about benefits Nigerians, because it's not about election. The whole thing started because we realized that we have several Nigerians living below the poverty line. You and I know the statistics today. This is a policy of government. But for you to do it, it has to be cash backed. The National Assembly approved certain amount of money to be deployed. That money was used for that purpose in the first year of this government in 2016. In 2017, did not come out. And so we had to wait for 2018. So the process has been very systematic, but also bearing in mind that we have a responsibility to account for the monies. Now we're talking about issues where people are tied to politics. That's not what it's all about. Because if it was politics, we would not have been able to start this in 2016. I just want us to draw that distinction, that we are talking about who need these resources. We need to leave them out of poverty. I want to also talk about the fact that this is not just about paying out cash. This is about training those people that are identified to below the poverty line.
I know you would have come across another idea about how these funds can be spent in such a way that it will benefit the poor. Yes, cash transfer recognized global as a way of poverty
lifting
alleviation.
people.
Putting the money into ventures that will create jobs.
The whole entire social investment program is about creating jobs. We have the Empower program, which is targeted at our youth. And these are youth, either you already have
temporary employment.
Don't say temporary employment, because you're at home for 10 years and just suddenly you got a job. That gives you some skills that you didn't have before. And I bet you, we're talking,
should we call it a job or a form of internship?
Let's call it a job, because you're earning money and you are doing something that allows you to think. But let us just do a throwback here. Administration came into office. We had one government, one political party, the PDP, that was in the office from 1999 to 2015. Could you imagine from 1999 to 2015, what difference it would have made to Nigerians?
The UWIN program was also implemented.
From 1999 to 2015, the $753 million US that was recovered from Abacha loot, we don't know where it is. We recovered in 2014, $241 million US was recovered. Where is it? And today we are telling Nigerians, and the essence of this is that we set up the open government partnership, and one of the commitment areas we made is what we call the transparency in the management of recovered assets.
Transparency. That's the key word.
In the management of recovered assets.
And that transparency also in the National Assembly appropriating these funds.
And the National Assembly
has not happened.
No.
And they have raised an inquiry.
No, the National Assembly has appropriated. That's what I told you, that in 2017, the 320 million was specifically mentioned in the appropriation. And I urge you to go and take a look.
But
and
the 2017 budget has expired.
What happened then is that under the 2018 budget, we also said we are waiting for this money. And so part of the recoveries and the revenue for 2018 captured the recoveries under other recovered assets.
Except it's going to come as a supplementary. The House of Representatives has said this money has not been appropriated.
That's exactly what I'm trying to say to you here. That this money has been appropriated because in 2018 budget, you pick it up, the social investment program, there's a recurrent budget billion naira. There's also a capital budget of 150 billion naira. Is that not an appropriation? That is the Appropriation Act of 2018. And I urge you to please pick it up. Just go to the Budget Office website. Click on 20 details. It's not hidden. It's all there. The details are there.
So it appears the National Assembly members don't have these details.
How can you say? They just passed the Appropriation Act. It's just maybe they don't understand that this is what it's meant for. And it's the process of communication. Right to the president or right to the Minister of Education. And the information is there in the public. We have today the trade unions who have come out to say, we are very happy with this project that the president has put in place because we understand the challenges that we face every day. It's just really for us, we need to delink politics from things that affect the lives of ordinary Nigerians.
Another quick thing, the huge money that was paid to some lawyers in quotes for helping to negotiate the return of the repatriation of these funds. So many Nigerians are outrageous, and that these lawyers are sympathizers and associates of top government officials.
Again, it goes back to politics. A lawyer deserves his fees. If anybody been around government for the past 16 years, starting from 1999 to to 2015, how much money they have earned in the recoveries.
But the choice of this set, was it transparent, open?
There's a process in the Federal Ministry of Justice for hiring lawyers. There is nothing hidden about it. The Federal Ministry of Justice doesn't make these payments. It's only after recoveries that the ministry would then write to Ministry of Finance and say, this is what was negotiated as fees. And it is the responsibility of the Federal Ministry of Finance, who has oversight on control of monies that belong to the federal government of Nigeria, to pay. I have to also let you know that once the government did was to set a scheme for payment of lawyers. That scheme starts from 1%, 2%, 3%, 5%, at the end there. So that scheme clearly defines what target you will meet before you are paid. Mind you that we don't even know where they are. There are possibilities that we will never be able to trace any of these monies because we don't have control in those jurisdictions.
At some point, we heard that the Swiss lawyers that helped in negotiation reached the conclusion that we didn't have any need for Nigerian lawyers.
Why didn't they return the money?
To repatriate the funds, that they have finished the job and the process.
Why didn't they return the money? That's the big question we should ask. That money only came into Nigeria in 2017.
And you think it's partly due to the efforts of the Nigerians?
Because they had to work to get that money back.
So you think they deserve the money?
They deserve every penny that is due to them. Case that when lawyers are paid, it becomes a public issue. You should be asking yourself, why is it a public issue today? Do you know, if we have to go back to history, the amount of money that have been paid to lawyers in the past, why is it that we recover money today and people have money, it becomes an issue? So we have a problem in Nigeria today where we are not facing the facts and the issues and we are not translating action. We've had problem. If PDP was doing so well, we won't be where we are today.
Go into politics.
No, because
now you're going into politics.
Because we are flagging, it shouldn't be.
Okay.
The question is, what have we done well in the past? Is there anything that we are doing well today? Why was money that has been hanging and you paid a Swiss lawyer that money?
So you have drawn me into politics. Do we dwell on politics?
No, we should not.
Okay. We'll take another break. When we come back, we'll go to another issue. The presidential order number 6, asset forfeiture. Very controversial again. She will be doing justice to it.
Find today's stories and more on our website, aitonline.tv. Also on YouTube at youtube.com/AITonline. Interact with us on Facebook. Our handle is @AIT_online. Our email address is feedback@aitonline.tv. Better still, download the AIT mobile app to your phone, tablet or any device from Google Play Store.
So much for remaining with us. Let's run through the last lap of the program. For today, Barrister Juliet Ibekako, one with special advisor to the President on justice sector reform, is still very much in this audience earlier that we'll be going into yet another controversial issue, from one controversial issue to the other. The forfeiture executive order number 6, there have been previous executive orders, but the constitutionality, the legality is being called to question.
Have you asked why is it that it's becoming this particular executive order suddenly not it? Let me say that fighting corruption in Nigeria has never been easy. I've worked in and out of Nigeria. I've worked in international, seen countries where more drastic actions have been taken, especially for something we realize is really affecting the social movement of this country. I don't see the difference that I don't see why we are seeing a lot of hype around. The order as given or rightly said, the powers given to the president under Section 5 of the Constitution only National Assembly powers to enact a law, which has been enacted under EFCC and ICPC Act, as well as the Constitution. If you read Section 5 very well, it talks about the executive to enhance. It does not take away the power of the National Assembly. It does not take away the powers of the judiciary.
Because I saw at the is where the president made reference to court orders.
Yes,
before
that's what I'm coming to that. So if that is the case, then it is not unconstitutional because he's only acting within his existing powers. The power saying that we want to prevent the dissipation of assets. And I gave you an example. Vessels that have been arrested, the EFCC or the police has gone to court. When they get to court, the court will say, we give you an interim order, hold these properties of the suit. We have seen so many vessels, vehicles, horses, goats, whatever, dissipate. We have seen monies disappear. You and I know that this executive order is mainly saying is that let's find a way to preserve this asset pending the determination of the suit. What it does is that it enables and empowers the determined procedures for preserving. So the suspect or the individual who has been prosecuted, we still have access to those assets. The court, the federal, instead of allowing this vessel to dissipate, will sell it, will put the money in the central bank in an escrow account. If the court determines is in your favor,
it takes that action. The
court will determine that. So he will go before the court.
Not unilaterally.
No, he cannot do it. There's a court process.
And that is where the problem is. I think many people misconstrued.
They have misconstrued it. And I think that is important. It's important that we explain what it means. What it means is that it is only to preserve assets. It is only to enhance the work that both the judiciary and but to assist us not to lose those assets. It assists in the long run. It will assist the individual. Have you seen those places where they pack recovered?
Yes,
you see that
it's like a dump site.
So we don't want to see those things again. We want to prevent it from happening, because if we are able to preserve the car recovered through the interim order, it means that you can get your money back and you can go and buy a better car because they will be in.
The act establishing the anti-corruption agencies, that of the EFCC, for instance, section 26 up to 30 or what, makes very clearly that the EFCC has powers to.
As a matter of fact, it does not provide for preservation and prevention of this.
It does
the interim order,
interim order and final forfeiture.
It doesn't give that. So there is a gap in between. It does not define what happens in between the interim and the final. And so
the gap that
the executive order seeks to assist us to, and we have, I've been part of the drafting of legislation on anti-corruption for a very long time, and we've realized that we need we put in the process of crime bill. If you pick up, maybe I'll send you a copy of the process of crime bill defines a chapter on management of assets. Due justice uses this process they don't take any money from government. They actually make their money to regenerate revenue. And yet, in of the assets that we have recovered to waste away.
Now, I want you to explain this further. Yes, the interim forfeiture order and the final forfeiture. You said the gap between them is what the
preservation of assets.
How will it?
We will then seek the permission of the court, and the individual, the suspect or the person that is being will also be part of that court process, where the court will now determine if they appear on sink. Do you know that we've had vessels sink in our recovery processes? Instead of allowing, we are having to pay so much money to maintain a vessel, you can say sell it off and put the money in an escrow account. The Minister of Justice, through his officer, we seek for you to order that this asset be sold and the money is placed in an escrow account in the central bank. The party involved can come and say, I want it sold. So this whole thing will go through a judicial process.
Up to the Supreme Court?
It doesn't have to go up to the Supreme Court.
But where the other party decides to stretch it to
if he decides, then he has, assuming the case eventually goes against him, and those assets are wasted, he also has to put a guarantee in the court to say, if eventually I don't win this case, I have somewhere, collateral somewhere, through which I will pay these monies to the federal government.
How much of this problem would the asset forfeiture be in the National Assembly solve?
It will solve a lot if we pass the National Assembly to help us.
Is the executive doing the needed and necessary lobbying? Because of playing politics with this is that they believe there are other measures, other means, such as putting pressures on the National Assembly, lobbying them, than just making.
Do you know that the former government would have passed this law? It was their end. When we lobbied and lobbied and lobbied, we got it out. The President Jonathan's government could not sign before leaving.
It was passed by
the 7th Assembly. Yes, it was not signed. And so it expired. And so we're back in the National Assembly. In January 2016, I recall, the President transmitted that letter to the National Assembly. And
that's the bill.
Yeah, the bill, sorry. The bill, the letter transmitting that bill went January or February. I was part of that. And I recall that we've had several meetings, several interactions. We've had several advocacy sessions. We've had civil society organizations working on this process. About 2 weeks ago, there was an advocacy meeting between the Federal Ministry of Justice, the Open Government Partnership, on the same bill. Tomorrow, we have the African Anti-Corruption. We're going to be talking about the process of crime bill. We have two different workshops, the one organized by the Presidential Committee against the Civil Society Organization, David Ogolo, around the same asset recovery issues, and the legal instruments that we require. Recovering of assets this is why it's difficult for us to recover assets from outside the country. They are so legally and technically so complicated. And for you to delve in the procedure from one to the end, and once you miss any of those procedures, you've missed it all. And so the executive order is aimed at helping the law prosecutors, helping the judiciary, as well as helping the individuals who feel that their assets will be lost before the case.
With reference to the individual, recall section 30 that talks about presumption of guilt, which is also to protect the individual. At the end of all this, for instance, the vessels were sold off, amount deposited in the court sets the suspect free.
The money. You pay the individual the money.
Some form of damage would have occurred.
You mean damage because the vessels are sold, or damage because you didn't sell vessels? Mind you, that vessel.
The sale presumes that it does not belong to the suspect. It violates Section 36.
I just told you that the individual will be part of the court process. You cannot go to court on such matters and not have be well represented. Let me also say that I've also had arguments about right to property under 44. Remember that within the same Section 44, it talks about the right to go to court to restrain properties, or a court orders that would restrain properties, or issues related to forfeiture because of a crime committed. This and the executive order talks about court orders before any action is taken. Judicial process will be respected in all of this. The president will not act outside the constitutional.
When will the implementation start?
The Attorney General it's signed. Once it's signed, what matters is that
the implementing body, is it instant, or will they still go back to fight?
You know that already signed. It takes effect the moment it's signed. So what matters is that the individuals who have matters in court will be represented by lawyers. Nobody is going to take away any rights from all of their responsibilities. And this government has never been in the business of, if you know what has happened in the past government, and you know what is happening, take every position when it comes to individual rights.
And that's what you think. I've met a lot of people who have said this government is like shunning court orders and court judgments. So many, there's a litany of delays, you know.
Well, you and I know that this government has respected more than any other government, especially when you talk about invasion or have been killed unilaterally, and when state assemblies have been invaded. You and I know the stories.
Like the killings going on in the Middle Belt.
We know about.
Let's not go there. I think we have done justice to the issues that we are supposed to take a look at today. Barrister Juliet Ibeka Akunwagu, Special Advisor to the President on Justice Sector Reforms, as well as National Coordinator of OGP. Thank you so much for coming around. Thank you for being part of it. I will return again tomorrow for another edition. My name is Amici Anapwe. Have a good time.
A journey of discovery. Opportunity to get in touch with unspoiled nature. Enjoy your time in a place that offers something for everyone. A land of beautiful contrasts.
An experience you won't forget. Relax, explore, discover. Fascinating Nigeria, the capital of the country. Here you will discover Nigeria's religious and cultural diversity, while enjoying the many international hotels offering first-rate hospitality and tours. Step into the exciting city of Lagos, a place where tradition and modernity come together. Considered Africa's own Big Apple, various hotels, and some of the best shops and restaurants in the country. Enjoy the unique nightlife and thriving music scene of one of the most vibrant cities. Rediscover relaxation in Nigeria's southern state of Akwa Ibom. Enjoy the finest hospitality at Le Méridien Hotel and Golf Resort, where this 18-hole golf course and its unique location in the middle of the jungle will ensure a lifetime of memories. Discover the beautiful city of Calabar, a lovely and peaceful place located in the southeast coast. Immerse yourself in the local traditions and get in touch with Nigeria's rich cultural history through the many tree. Take a trip through the mountain forest, where the Obudu Mountain Resort plays host to luxury travelers and some of the most important conventions in Africa. And pay a visit to the Alpine Mountain, a rainforest sanctuary where you can see some of the most endangered species alive. A country with 170 million people. Africa's biggest market. Extraordinary, fascinating Nigeria.
I'm on. Welcome to the program Moneyline with Nancy. It is, and I am Nancy Naji. It's so nice to have you today. Focusing our discussion on population again. Yesterday on the program, we did talk about population. I started the conversation on population reduction on the World Population Day, which is today, that is being celebrated around the world. World Population Day, United Nations initiative, is to raise awareness about the exploding world population. It focuses on reproductive rights this year to mark 50 years recognition as a human right. An estimated 214 million women in developing countries have an modern contraception, with women in the poorest 20% of the population having reproductive health services. 95% of world's births among adults in developing countries like Nigeria. Now let's talk about the world population. Total 7.6 billion people and is expected to grow to nearly 10 billion by the middle of the century, at around 11.2 billion by the end. That's by the end of the century. More people live in urban than rural areas, with 55% residing in urban areas this year, compared to 30% in 1950. By 2050, to reach approximately 70%. The most urbanized regions, and I need you to listen to this, the most urbanized regions are North America, with 82% of people living in urban areas, Caribbean 81%, Europe 74%, and Oceania 68%. Asia is about 50% urbanized, while Africa is still predominantly rural, which is about 43%. Home to nearly 90% of the world's rural population. That's Asia and Africa. With India having the largest number of people living in rural areas. India has the largest number of people living in rural areas. That's young people, followed by China, 578 million. Then if we're talking about cities with the world's largest population, Tokyo is the world's largest city with 37 million inhabitants, followed by Delhi, that's the capital of India, with 29 million, and Shanghai in China with 26 million people. The world is aging rapidly. People aged 60 and older make up 12.3% of the global population, and by 2050 to almost 22%. Population growth and poverty, according to the United Nations, trends and dynamics can have an enormous effect on forecasts for poverty reduction and sustainable development, and poverty is largely influenced by population and rural-urban distribution. All of this has a critical effect on a country's development prospects for raising living standards for the poor. According to World Poverty Clock, Nigeria is currently the world's poverty capital, and population has shown that Nigeria will be the third most populous nation by in a few years' time. So we will on the program, and this is a wake-up call for both the government and Nigerians. It's time for us to productive use. Some may say, like my guest told me on the show yesterday, that Nancy, he doesn't believe that we are up to 198 million people. But if you're in this very large population, in as much as we saw about over 20,000 births, newborns, January 1 this year, adding to the population, in as much as a population about 3.2% or thereabouts. What do we do with an increasing population? So program, join the conversation. You can do that. Chat me up on Twitter, Nancy Loitis. You can also AIT. Just start sending your messages right now. My guest will be joining me in a bit. Rex Abitogun, the Federal Capital Territory, as well as Inyang Babio, who is also a policy of Nanette Hotels. He will be joining me here. All right. Let's quickly take you through the markets now. What's happening now? The Nigerian markets close in the bearish territory on Tuesday now. It closed in the bearish territory on Tuesday. The Ocean Index was down by 60 basis points, the of 37 basis point, or 37,000 points, I beg your pardon. The year-to-date performance stands at 2%. That's in the negative. We saw Forte Oil leading the gainers as well as mutual benefit Tuesday. Moving over to South Africa, the Johannesburg Securities Exchange opened lower in early trade, while in Egypt, the exchange opened in the green on negative economic. Did see a bullish close for United States stocks, talking about Wall Street, but the trade spat between China and the U.S. is still on this morning, just a few hours ago or so, a few minutes ago, where he will be attending the NATO summit. But President Trump has been very active on Twitter saying that Europe is not, committing budget to defense spending, that why should the United States pay more for protecting others. For example, he did point out that of Germany, because according to NATO, the countries should spend about 2% of their GDP on defense spending. So President Trump will be meeting his allies today, much in a good mood, telling them how he feels. Of course, we know he's a very vocal person. Now, coming back to the trade spat between U.S. and China, we do know that U.S. has imposed tariffs of $4 billion. And when analysts did put this together, it did say, it may not really impact on the GDP. That's about 0.1% of the GDP. But Trump is threatening another $200 billion in tariffs, and that they say may affect. It's not even up to 1%, perhaps 0.5% as it were, but it may also impact on the earnings of companies. We'll see how this goes. For me this morning, while I was just ruminating around the program, what came to my mind actually, and I think I'll be posing this question to Apex Bank, is the U.S.-China trade spat right now. How may it just affect the U.S.? How may it affect China-Nigeria currency swap? That came to my mind earlier today. But let's see how it goes. Why I said so is because, of course, if there is a trade war between those two countries, two biggest countries, economies in the world, China may just be looking for other alternatives in other countries. Who knows? Opened higher today. Asian markets plunged even after the United States issued new list of Chinese products for potential tariffs. Lower at $1,200. Oil is trading at $77 a barrel. All right, let's quickly take a break. We do have the funny business segment, my team, isn't it, on population. Let's check out what they brought back.
An idea of Nigeria's population?
Yes.
Do you know how
we are up to 10 billion and above?
We are like 15 million. Gave for this country, the one I know before, but I don't know now again.
I know we are the giant of Africa, but I don't know the exact number that we are.
If you were to guess, like how many?
40 billion now. As a guess, I don't really have a saying that we are up to that number. But the more for every day, I know that we are plenty. We are even more than 40 billion like that.
The present one now, we don't even know the figures, but they are just glamoring at over million, some say 200. But to me, I see Nigeria are more than 200. Do you understand? If you want to talk about the death rate compared to the population now we have at time, you understand we are more than 200. Do you understand? Because as of back 2006 they did the census. Me, I was not counted, but they said 180, I'll be 150.
But for my own, based on calculation, I think we are over 200 million.
What more can I say now? Nigeria's population, 40 billion people. Did I hear well? I did say earlier, population or world population is currently at 7.6 billion people. 60 billion people. Anyway, according to the NPC, that's the National Population Commission, Nigeria's population is people. All right, let's quickly take the money news, and let's get started by telling you that the House of Representatives to the earnings of the Nigerian National Petroleum Corporation, that's an NPC, since the beginning of the year. The lawmakers said running of the state-owned oil firm have made it imperative to ascertain the volume of production of oil within the period under review. Lawmakers have set up an ad hoc panel to also ascertain the countries under review. Meanwhile, the National Assembly has transmitted the Petroleum Industry Governance Bill to President Muhammadu Buhari for signing into law. Central bank websites have shown that less than 1% of microfinance banks licensed by the Central Bank of Nigeria have country. The report indicates that only 8 out of the 1,028 microfinance banks licensed by the Apex Bank have national license. A further breakdown and 908 MFBs with unit licenses. The CBN guidelines stipulates that microfinance license requires 2 billion naira paid-up capital to operate in all the states of the Federation, but Apex Bank plans to increase the minimum capital to enhance their performance. Despite impressive growth rate over the last decade in most of the continent, Africa's infrastructure needs, with annual financing gap reaching as high as $130 billion annually, while Nigeria's infrastructural cumulative financing needs are estimated annually. To bridge this deficit, the African Development Bank Nigeria Country Office commenced a public-private partnership to fund. Helena Laurie tells us more in this report.
Transparency and accountability are essential. Population growth in the African continent, especially Nigeria, continues to pose a threat to infrastructural development essential for economic infrastructural gap in the country. The African Development Bank Nigeria launched a roadshow through the African Investment Forum aimed at winning private investment.
The African Infrastructure Forum does is that it allows us to be able to do more than we can do alone, if that makes sense. So, for example, if you look that the government wants to do, and all of these infrastructure projects now are very large, government alone, it's not prudent for government alone to want to finance that, because then you cannot finance other things. We, as big as we are, to be able to finance very large projects alone as well. So what you're trying to develop is a partnership between sales and the private sector and other multilaterals to be able to finance projects.
Our idea is to work with the private sector in a country, PPP in a country, and allow that prioritization to happen.
The African Investment Forum seeks to harness public-private partnership in 5 sectors, which include power, integration, and improved quality of life for Africans.
Because we are working with the government to identify what are the priorities, we are working with the private sector to identify what are the priorities, also to the question on that side. Yes, we are showcasing a few projects to give an idea of what we consider impactful projects.
The other projects are really in the area of energy, agriculture, industrialization, and send boundaries. For example, what you call projects that will, transform several countries rather than one country is also a priority for us. And the final aspect is really projects that improve the quality of life.
Projects that we believe will be of interest to the country, but would also be populace of Nigeria. For the focus labs, we have already commenced that process of accelerating some of those projects, and we believe that the African Investment Forum would also accelerate some of these priority projects in the sectors mentioned.
The forum also aims to showcase bankable projects across the country ahead of the African Investment Marketplace, scheduled to hold from 2018 in Johannesburg, South Africa. Helena Olori, reporting for Moneyline with Nancy.
Let's continue. The deficiency of accurate output data has been a major hindrance to the growth of Nigeria's oil and gas sector since its inception. The lecture and lunch event here in Abuja. Maki Alfredo Tioto has this report on the need for transparency.
Transparency and accountability are essential tools required to properly harness the dividends of Nigeria's oil and its impact on the Nigerian economy. The public needs to be kept abreast of happenings in the sector.
There is, however, no curse at all. The curse, if any, comes in the form of elusive culpability, which characterize the Nigerian oil industry almost from inception. This lack of transparency permeates all levels of the value chain, making it and difficult to address. And the effect of that is that, of course, we are a very rich country. What we have already taken out, and what is also remaining. We are a very, very rich country. Very, very. One of the top richest countries in this world. A lot of poor people in this country.
People need to be educated more and more in various aspects of our lives. What is happening around us and the changes and transformations that are going about in the country. So it's a welcome development, and especially since it's dealing, which is the nerve center of our economy. I think the more platforms we have like this that continue to disseminate information about dealings in the sector, I think the better for the country.
Lack of accurate data is a major hindrance to the development of the oil and gas industry. Ally in promoting transparency.
We appreciate, what has been done, but we want to assist, the managers of the oil industry in making sure that things are done properly, global standard, and together we are able to get rid of lack of transparency in the industry. That is why we have. It's a very large industry. We want to, on daily basis, give lecture to the stakeholders so that they will be able to appreciate what is happening and what's supposed to happen in the future.
Up till now, we accurate crude calibration, and I am praying with publications like this will be put into focus to know exactly the quantity of gas.
Nigeria's oil and gas industry accounts for nearly 70% of the government's revenue and is crucial for its advancement and contribution to the economy. Mikey Alfredo Chuchu reporting for Moneyline with Nancy.
All right, let's quickly take a break. We will start the discussion, or we'll continue the discussion I started yesterday. Don't forget that today, looking at population economics, population dynamics, economic growth, poverty, and all the potpourri of population statistics and all of that. I'll introduce them when we come back from the break. Don't forget to chat me up on Twitter. I'm seeing a lot of your messages already concerning the conversation. We'll be right back.
Reality, passion is important, because even if you have all the skill set and the support, if you're not passionate about what you do, then you would not strive.
That some of the most hard-working men and women in the world are Nigerians.
What do we need to do to begin to in tune with the needs of the nation's economy?
If budgetary allocation to education year by year is grossly inadequate.
All you need to do is to join the committee of charge. Go to Twitter, follow me, Nancy Ilo, drop your comments. You can also find and follow the show at Moneyline AIT and drop your